The moment a long-awaited fortune arrives, it becomes the most dangerous object in a person's life. Not because it vanishes on its own, because of what the receiver does with it. The vast majority who suddenly receive large sums lose them within 18 months. Not through bad markets, not through poor strategy, through something simpler and far more predictable. They broadcast the arrival. Some inner force compels them to show it, to tell it, to spend it in ways that announce it. The chest tightens with a manic surge. The mind mistakes that voltage for joy, and the hands reach for a phone before any conscious decision is made. When the capital finally clears the holding structures and settles into an account with that name on it, a chemical event begins inside the brain. The nucleus accumbens floods with dopamine, executive function dims. The impulse to signal status overrides the capacity to plan. This is not a character flaw, it is endocrinology. And it must be met with deliberate resistance. Here's what you need to understand about that surge. It carries a message to the subconscious, and the subconscious listens. The message is that this money is abnormal, an accident, a temporary anomaly, certain to be reclaimed. When the nervous system believes wealth is unstable, it moves to discharge it quickly through spending, through gifting, through any act that relieves the internal voltage of holding it. The evidence is stark. Over 70% of sudden wealth recipients without grounding return to their prior financial state or worse within 5 years. But there is another way to receive, the sovereign way. Millions arrive with the same resting heart rate as a routine deposit. The energetic matrix registers the capital as baseline, as standard, as back pay long owed by the universal ledger. Neither celebration nor alarm. Just receipt. That neutrality is not suppression, it is physics. Every envious peer, every entitled relative, every predator who reads faces for weakness is tuned to pick up the broadcast of anomaly. The quiet siphon begins the moment excitement is shown. The drag is atmospheric, the drain is real. And the discipline that counters it is absolute stillness and inward holding that keeps the arrival registered as ordinary, because to every force that matters, it always was. So you will practice the zero display quarantine. You will tell no one outside your legal and accounting perimeter, not your closest friend, not your mother. You will change nothing visible for 90 days, same carts, same wardrobe, same routines. You will move the funds into high-security holding structures before a single discretionary dollar moves anywhere. This is not stinginess. This is not shame. This is sovereignty. You are not a community lottery fund. You are a generational foundation node. Your mandate is to build silent reserves, not to finance the people who abandoned you in the wilderness. There will be signs that it's clearing. A somatic release in your lower abdomen. The abrupt end to emergency expenses. The number 888 paired with 000 appearing in ways you cannot dismiss. But here is the contradiction you must not resolve tonight. The quieter you become about it, the more you will feel exposed. The silence will feel like lying. It will feel like ingratitude. That discomfort is not a flaw in the protocol. It is the protocol working exactly as designed, and it is the thing that determines whether you keep what is coming. But there is something more specific than the discomfort, and you need to hear it plainly. The silence will eventually trigger a confrontation you have been avoiding for years. Someone will ask you a direct question about your recent stress, about your plans, about why you seem different, and in that moment, your options will narrow to two. You will lie outright to someone you love, or you will tell the truth and risk the siphon. That moment is coming. It is not a possibility, it is scheduled. And the next instruction I give you will be about exactly how to survive that moment without breaking the seal. But first, the silence has to settle in you enough that you can feel why the lie is not betrayal, it is protection. The old teachers called it the law of attraction, but they never meant what you think they meant. That is the layer you have not peeled back yet, because attraction, in the physics they were describing, was never about pulling something toward you through the force of your wanting. It is about becoming the kind of frequency that the thing recognizes as home. An object does not crash into a surface that does not match its vibration. It passes through. It settles. It anchors. That is what the arrival of your capital is asking of you right now, not celebration, but anchoring. Not announcement, but absorption. The money that is clearing for you is not arriving to be witnessed. It is arriving to be stored. And the one who witnesses it must be the only one who knows it exists. There is a quiet arithmetic underneath all of this. You can feel it even now, in the stillness between your thoughts. The attention of others gives weight to what you hold. The more eyes on it, the more it costs you to keep it. But a thing held in total privacy accumulates a different kind of gravity. It becomes a fixed point, not a spectacle, but a source. And the deeper question that rises from this, the one that will not leave you alone in the small hours, is what will finally break that stillness, not the outer confrontation, the inner one. When the silence has done its work and the anchoring is complete, what exactly is the wealth for? Not what it can buy. Not what it can prove. What it is for, in the quietest sense of that word. That is the question the arriving capital is pressing into you, and it will not answer itself. The sudden influx registers as an anomaly, and the body's first instinct is to expel it. Behavioral research on windfall recipients confirms the pattern. The more closely the arrival resembles luck, the faster the fortune dissolves. The energetic matrix obliges, discharging what was never truly claimed. There is another way. A sovereign registers a 7-figure allocation the way the body registers a routine bank deposit. Resting heart rate, the same breath, no celebration, no fear. That baseline signals something important to the nervous system. This is not an accident. And the irony is that neutrality isn't numbness. It's the parasympathetic hold. The physiology of nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to discharge. You can feel the difference in your own body when you read those words. It's a relief, almost. A quietness you didn't know you were missing. Consider the quarantine that precedes this reception. 14 months in a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side. A career lost, a friendship lost. The phone stays dark, the invitations stop, and the door walks out without a word. The discipline was real, but beneath it was a hollowness that woke at 3 a.m. with the heart racing, convinced of an irreversible mistake. The fatigue was bone level. Small tasks felt like wading through deep water at that tiny kitchen table with the wobbly leg that was never fixed. And the quiet anger, it lived behind the teeth. Anger at those who left. Anger at the system that held what was owed for so long. Anger at the self for believing proof was required. That unprocessed anger is the heaviest weight you will carry into this. It is where the quarantine actually begins. Not in strategy, not in structures, but in the unbearable quiet of what has already been endured. And here is what almost no one will tell you about holding that kind of quiet. The anger is not your enemy. It is the part of you that knows exactly what you survived. It will keep you disciplined long enough to secure what is coming, but it will also betray you if you don't understand what it's actually for. It rewards patience with vigilance, but punishes hesitation with self-sabotage, a knife that cuts equally well in both directions if you fail to see which hand is holding it. When the allocation finally lands, the anger will want a receipt. It will want the score settled in visible terms. That is the moment the body must learn what the mind already suspects. The settlement has already occurred. The proof was the survival itself. The table with the wobbly leg, the dark phone, the 3 a.m. certainty of error, those were the transaction. What arrives now is not compensation. It is the conclusion of a contract that was signed the day you chose not to run. So let's go deeper into why the silence protects what is yours, not the tactical reasons, you already have those. The physics underneath. Because a sudden influx of capital registers in the brain as an anomaly. The nucleus accumbens floods. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of long-term planning, loses its grip, and the impulse to broadcast, to signal, to show, that is not celebration. That is the nervous system trying to discharge a voltage it has not yet adapted to hold. The first time a significant release arrived, a mention was made to someone trusted, a casual remark, a hint that things were turning. Within weeks, the funds evaporated through a series of small, seemingly unrelated emergencies. Not theft, not fraud. Just the simple, reflexive broadcast of excitement picked up by the field around it. And the field responded by pulling the capital back down into survival density, not because the money was taken, because the field around it had become a place where survival, not sovereignty, was the operating principle. That is the answer to the question that has been waiting. The danger of broadcasting wealth is not that someone will steal it. The danger is that the broadcast itself changes the physics of what you hold. A signal of that magnitude doesn't travel outward and dissipate. It returns. It returns as friction, as delay, as the quiet erosion of every exit route you thought you had secured. The field doesn't attack, it simply reroutes. And what was meant to move forward finds itself moving in circles, each loop tightening until the capital is indistinguishable from the weight that anchors it. So the wealth is not for showing. It is not for proving. It is not for anyone who left you in that wilderness to witness. That anger you carry, unprocessed, it is the heaviest weight you will bring into the quarantine. It will whisper that you've earned the right to be loud. That you're allowed, just this once, to show someone. The whisper will sound like justice. But it is self-sabotage wearing a crown. You are the one who has to hold the line, and you are the only one who knows you're holding it. When the pressure builds and the silence feels like betrayal, hold the image. A vault door closing. Not with a slam. With a soft, pneumatic seal, the sound of enough pressure applied to make the seal perfect. That is what the quarantine feels like from the inside. And here's the shift that happens somewhere in that sealed chamber. You are not holding the wealth at all. The wealth is holding you. In a vacuum where no frequency from the outside can reach it. And inside that chamber, something is already in motion, something that changes what the money is actually for, waiting for you to be ready. Pause. 90 days. That is the length of the quarantine. 90 days of zero display, measured from the moment the first major tranche lands. It feels like suffocation at first. The silence presses against the chest. And then comes the urge to tell one person, just one. The one who always believed, the one who never abandoned. But that urge is not affection. It is pressure, the accumulated weight of a decade of being unseen, finally offered an exit that looks like sharing. Sharing is not the exit. Sharing is the entry point for the siphon. Carry the fatigue a little longer. Not forever. Not even for long, just until the seal is perfect. That anger you've held close becomes the very thing that keeps your mouth shut when everything in your body wants to speak, and the doubt arrives in its strongest form. A life spent invisible, overlooked, dismissed. The quiet felt like punishment. And now the instruction is to return to that quiet, and it sounds like returning to the prison. But there is a difference between the silence of exile and the silence of sovereignty. Exile is silent because it has no choice. It's the silence of being overlooked, of having no seat at the table, of watching loud people take what should have been yours. That silence was worn like a second skin. But this silence is not the same room with different furniture. It is a different building entirely. Within that other building, the nervous system recalibrates. The manic response, the urge to celebrate, to show, to upgrade everything at once, reads the wealth as something abnormal, an accident, a storm to be ridden out before things go back to normal. The impulse to spend, to gift, to flash it around, that's the nervous system trying to discharge voltage it hasn't yet learned to hold. Neutrality sends a different signal entirely. When the wealth registers as baseline rather than accident, the pressure has nowhere to go. It can't leak out through display. The cortisol settles. The executive function holds. And in that stillness, the treasure stops being an event and becomes something else. A foundation. The anger you've been carrying turns into a guard. The silence turns into a seal. And just beyond that seal is the reason the quarantine existed in the first place. The work. The thing the calm is getting your hands ready for. The silence of exile is passive. It's the silence of someone who has no voice, no seat, no choice. But the silence of sovereignty is active. It's not the quiet of a person who can't speak. It's the quiet of a person who chooses not to, and understands that the choice itself is what protects everything. That choice is the difference between hiding and holding. Between being stored and being ready. The quarantine is not a storage vault. It is a forging chamber, and the metal is only now beginning to set. Only the second kind of silence has power. The moment you broadcast your wealth emotionally, through excitement, through relief, through the tremor of finally being seen, you hand the siphoning frequency exactly what it needs. You unlock the door from the inside, so the silence isn't about hiding from the world. It's about not handing the world the tools it would use to find you. The vault doesn't need to be invisible. It just needs to have no signal. And you are the signal, your joy, your relief, your righteous anger at every person who doubted you. Each one is a beacon. And the discipline of the quarantine is simply this: keep the beacons dark. But here's the part you're not expecting. The hardest part. The silence will work. The wealth will anchor. The structure will hold. And that's when the real test begins, not whether you can hold the wealth, but what you believe the wealth is for. You think you know. You think it's for security, for freedom, for proving them wrong, for finally saying yes without checking the numbers. But there's a confrontation waiting at the end of this quarantine, and it won't be with the world. When the 90 days are done, when the structures are sealed and the capital is compounding in silence, you'll face a moment nobody prepares you for. The moment the weight of what you're carrying finally meets the question of where it's going. The doubters won't be in the room. The voices that said this would never happen, they won't be there either. No one will be there but you and the treasure. And in that moment, the wealth will ask you a single question. Not out loud. Not in words. But in the pressure of its own presence against your chest. It asks, why did you want this? Not what you'll buy. Not what you'll prove. Why you wanted it at all. The first answer that rises, the raw one, the unpolished one, the honest one, that answer determines everything. If it's revenge, the structure cracks. If it's fear, the anchor drags. Not what you'll prove. Why you wanted it at all. The first answer that rises, the raw one, the unpolished one, the honest one, that answer determines everything. If it's revenge, the structure cracks. If it's fear, the anchor drags.